I just read a whole bunch of Superman comic books with one mission in mind. I want to understand James Gunn's Superman. Well, James Gunn Superman is finally here. It's hit theaters, and even I myself have finally had time to sit down and check it out. And when it comes to this particular iteration of the Big Blue Boy Scout, James Gunn has spoken publicly about which stories from the pages of DC Comics inspired his helpful and unapologetically corny Superman. But for nerds like you and me, James Gunn went a step further and even published these comics into one comprehensible reading guide so that we can read, or reread, several times, all of these comics in preparation for the movie. And to my absolute delight, some of my personal favorite Superman stories happen to be referenced in this. As well, there's some that I've been meaning to get to that I just never did, and one that I had never heard of that I was very excited to get to. So, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a comprehensive overview of every comic book that James Gunn used as inspiration for his Superman. And at the end of the video, you can decide if you want to read these stories for yourself before you go watch or rewatch Superman. Let's get into it. This book was written by Grant Morrison and illustrated by Frank Quitely, and this was the very first image that James Gunn used when referencing his new take on Superman all the way back in 2022 when he took over the DCU. This is a 12-issue series that ran from 2005 to 2008, and if ever there was a Superman story with heart and soul in it, this is that Superman story. Honestly, it made me sad. It really made me sad. The story doesn't matter about Superman's origin story, and in fact, it picks up towards the end of Superman. See, this book jumps in with Superman doing a rescue mission on the sun, trying to rescue a character called Dr. Quintum. Quintum's reason for being there is part of the overall story's big reveal, but they also just kind of tell you right away what's going on. Basically, he wants to steal energy from the sun so that he can heal Superman or clone him if he ever died. But the expedition is sabotaged by a big, scary monster being remotely controlled by none other than Lex Luthor, who in this run is more of like an evil scientist than anything else, but it is really good stuff. I actually really like this version of Lex.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Unfortunately, and ironically, for Superman, he gets overexposed to solar radiation, which causes his cells to start bursting inside of him. After a successful rescue mission and a medical examination from Quintum, we learn early on that Superman is dying. But with the tragedy of Superman dying comes enhanced powers and a boosted immunity to his one weakness, kryptonite. Supes is jacked on power, but he's also on borrowed time. And with that came the iconic 12 labors of Superman, which are essentially the 12 must-do things that he feels he has to do before he dies to leave the world a better place than the way he found it. Now, as to what the 12 labors are specifically, I wouldn't recommend trying to figure it out. See, Grant Morrison seems to know the answer to this question, but it is not explained in the book. In fact, we don't see every labor of the 12 labors, and when Superman finally completes them all, he's not even really sure how many he's done. He just kind of went on this save the world bender before he died, and that is classic Superman. And that's really what this story was. It's Superman desperately trying to make a difference before it's too late.
Eyes up here.
Within this series, we also get to see Lois Lane donning a leotard and the moniker of Superwoman. And thanks to a formula made from Superman's DNA, she's able to get his powers for like 24 hours, which allows them enough time to make a big difference, go on some secret rescue missions, and make out on the moon.
What color underwear am I wearing?
Now, having seen James Gunn Superman, I can honestly say that I think it's really the personality of All-Star Superman mixed with some of that Christopher Reeves goodness that was really the inspiration for David Cornsweet's take on the character, which, by the way, I liked a lot. I thought it was good. I thought he was good. However, that's Superman. When it comes to my definitive take on Lex Luthor, I think I actually found the one. Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, is a 2005 limited series with old sexy Lexi at the center of it. The books were written by Brian Arezzello and drawn by Lee Bermejo, who is a maestro with a pencil. This was actually my first time even hearing about Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, and I have to say, I loved these books. In this series, Lex Luthor hatches a plan to sabotage Superman's public image and turn the city of Metropolis against him. In doing so, he creates a corporate-sponsored superhero called Hope to pull positive attention away from Superman, while one of Luthor's operatives called Orr and Toyman and his bots get tangled in the crosshairs. There's a lot of office politics and public relations in these comic books, and I actually really enjoyed that. Now, this is a very short series. I mean, you could read through all 5 issues in a lunch break. But I definitely see the inspiration for Lex Luthor on James Gunn's Superman movie. Clearly, the core of this story is to show why Lex Luthor hates Superman and just how far he would be willing to go to take him down. All in the name of making himself look better. I think it really just highlights the inferiority that Lex feels in comparison to Superman, which really seems to be Nicholas Holt's biggest motivation for his character in the movie. It's a story about jealousy, manipulation, and desperation to topple your competition and take no prisoners. Although, Lex does learn his lesson for sure in this comic book series. Kind of like how he learns his lesson for sure in the movie. And folks, probably my personal favorite series of Superman comics. And yes, nostalgia is a factor. But what I consider to be the Smallville of Superman comic books is Superman for All Seasons. This is a 4-issue miniseries, often bought as a graphic novel, and it was my introduction to the Superman comics in the early 2000s. It was released in '98, but I was 6 when it came out, so I didn't read it until years later. This gem of a comic book was written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by one of my favorite comic book artists, Tim Sale.
I really I looked at a lot of Norman Rockwell, and that really fit the small town vibe.
The story is simple. We know the icon. We've heard the legends. Faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, save the cat, punch the bad guy, kiss the girl. Superman. Americana, you know? But the book winds us back to Superman's years before learning who or what he is and is destined to be. The first book is about the son of a farmer, a humble kid from a small town who knows nothing other than to just be good. No special powers, no red capes, no freeze breath or x-ray vision. Just a nice kid. And see, this is the good shit. As the series continues, we see different people's perspectives of Superman through the character's unique lenses and vision of him. Each issue or chapter in the series is a different season: spring, summer, fall, winter. Spring is the first issue, and it was narrated and from the perspective of Pa Kent, telling the story of his sweet son from another planet that he raised to be human. He watched him learn moral values and excel and go from being a good kid to being a good man. The issue documents Clark learning that he can fly when attempting to save someone from a tornado, and eventually learns who he is and where he came from, while his BFF back home, Lana Lang, encourages him to use his powers for good and leave Smallville and go somewhere where he can really make a difference. By the end of this issue, Clark becomes a reporter at the Daily Planet in Metropolis, and the rest of the series can begin.
I grew up in Kansas, General. About as American as it gets.
In summer, we get to know how Lois Lane views Superman and Clark Kent, as she's not aware that the two are one and the same. And this might be my favorite issue. It just feels like classic Superman. The Lois and Clark moments in here feel directly lifted from the Reeve movies. Lois feels something towards Superman in this one, and she has no idea that this bumbling dude bopping around the newsroom is the same guy. And this makes for a nice dynamic, because one thing that was missing from James Gunn's Superman was that nice dichotomy of Clark Kent and Superman, because when he's around Lois in this movie, he can be both. It does seem like James Gunn took a lot of the cuteness from this book and put it into Lois and Clark's dynamic in the movie, but I like the detail of her not knowing he's Superman right away. It just was a little bit of an adjustment.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman.
We even get the classic Superman saves Lois moment when he rescues her from a missile crisis that's not only about to take her out, but tons of other people. We also get to meet a character named Jenny Vaughn, who is obsessed with Superman. Also, just look at how fucking good the artwork is in these comic books, man. Tim Sale is a wizard. Fall is a Lex Luthor joint, and for this one, we really just get to see how bad of a person Lex Luthor is. In this one, Luthor manipulates the people around Superman, like Jenny Vaughn, into basically ruining Superman by destroying Metropolis with his latest creation, Toxin. Superman is able to get an antidote for the toxin and go up into the sky and make it rain a cure. It's like raining medicine on these people that heals them. Well, I guess not everyone. And the point of this issue is where Superman learns that you can't save everyone. This breaks him. He kind of retreats and goes back home to Smallville to be with his parents. And the issue ends.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
And finally, we get to Winter, which happens to be told from the perspective of Clark's BFF back home, Lana Lang. And she's the reason that Clark went on this journey to become Superman and move to Metropolis to begin with. So it's only right that we close the story the same way it began. In this issue, we learn that back in Smallville, Lana Lang was obsessed with Clark, fully in love with him as a kid. And while he was off doing Superman stuff, she left Smallville to travel the world. But now she's back. And similar to Lois's summer issue, I like this issue because it shows us Superman from the perspective of somebody who looks up to him, who admires him, but also who knows him. So they continue on being just friends. However, the story comes full circle when Clark has to save Smallville from a natural disaster in the form of a flood. He saves his family, he saves Lana, and he gets the motivation to return to Metropolis and fight another day. And that is where the issue ends. And I think what they were trying to do was give us one of the darker years in Superman's life that show us the challenges that he does have to overcome. It is real good. And rereading it was a little bit bizarre for me because I've read this comic book before, but reading it now after seeing Superman and knowing some of the inspiration that went into the movie, it was very cool. It was kind of meta. I liked it. Now, clearly there are many other characters from other comic books used in this film, from the appearance of Guy Gardner, Kendra as Hawk Girl, Metamorpho, and of course Ultraman, which I don't want to spoil too much, but Bizarro. He's basically Bizarro, and I think we're gonna see him again and he will be full Bizarro. Now, I also think it's worth mentioning, I caught some incredible Smallville references in here. I happen to love that show, and I think that what they were trying to do with Superman's Kryptonian parents, like with Jor-El, that felt very Smallville to me. I think that's probably the only place that I've seen them do what they did with the movie anywhere else. Anyway, guys, if you're interested in reading any of these comic books, I will put the names of them on screen here. Every single one of these can be bought in a graphic novel or omnibus or compendium or whatever you're looking for. They have them, so you can go check it out at your local like Barnes & Noble or whatever. But if you're feeling brave, I would recommend seeking out these comic books at an actual comic book shop. Let's keep those alive, you know? I need them. I need them. Anyway, guys, have you seen James Gunn's Superman? Did you like it? Have you read any of these comic books? Did they help you like the movie more or less? Personally, I thought the movie was pretty awesome, but I'm gonna reserve my judgment until I've seen it a couple more times. That's it for this episode, everybody. Go read some comics, go see some movies, and I'll see ya in the next one. Peace! Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.